decompression breathing, because this is key for these healthy biomechanics. And the decompression breath is what I have been studying with Dr. Eric for the last 3.5, 4 years. And so I apply it to everything and I love it. Okay, decompression breath. First, let's define compression. So here, I'm just gonna kind of stand up and you'll see different parts of my body. If you all put your fingers where your ribs are, in the front and also in the back, then find your pelvic bones, the 2 ilium bones and the iliac crest. This space between the base of the ribs and the top of the hip bones is going to be our measuring space. So typically when a lot of people inhale, they're chest breathers. So they push through the front of the chest, and they might even, shrug up their shoulders and shorten the neck and, get as big as they can this way, but they're compressing through the low back and pushing the front ribs forward. And for a lot of people, that's what becomes the mark of their big inhalation. So on a typical inhalation, we're gonna hopefully get space between the hip bones and the rib cage. Now for a decompression breath, we want there to be that expansion of the space between the hip bones and the rib cage all the way around 360. So that means that this dull, dim place in the back of the lungs and at the back of the ribs is going to have to get really big, and the breath in the back, like a helium balloon, just going right up through the back of the heart, the sides of the chest, and the front of the chest. As soon as we get that big connection with source and we get really big from that place of connection and inhale in that big way, we start to decompress the spine. And this is the whole thing. Like when we start the day off, we want the body to have a lot of hydration, a lot of space. And this is going to be for fascia and understanding the viscoelastic nature of fascia and etc. What happens at the beginning of the day, we have more openness in the spine between the discs. And then as the day goes along, we get increasingly compressed by the forces of gravity. And much of the modern world is sitting and driving and has much more sedentary lifestyle. And throughout the day, the spine and the forces of gravity are getting increasingly compressed. So then we go to drive home from work, we have to adjust the rear view mirror, not because our spine has compressed throughout the day and we're actually shorter. And then we go through life and we keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter because we're more and more compressed. So in this first part of the triad, this big, spacious connection breath with source is to get as big as we can. Source energy is infinite, immeasurable. And we want to expand all that breath up into the back of the thoracic, back of the lungs. Now, here's the key. When you go to exhale, typically when we exhale, we go back into a slumping pattern. If we were to go inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, and this part gets shorter. So the trick to decompression breath is if you put your index fingers and thumbs at the hip bones and rib cage, when you inhale, get big and make as much space as you can all the way around. Then when you exhale, use the rooting pattern of the exhalation to tone, to create an effective engagement and contraction, pelvic floor, base of the navel, to keep this space open instead of getting smaller. Okay, this is key. Let's try it. And then we apply that in all the asana too, so that we're continually decompressing the spine, getting big and open, connected with source energy, connected with the creative impulse of life, connected, all the way through. Inhale, get as big as you can and breathe, breathe, breathe into the back of your lungs. Fill up that helium balloon. So big expansion, elevate, get tall, take your chin back, keep your neck long. There you go. And as you exhale, tone and engage also 360 degrees around, so an effective engagement around, and that contraction and that engagement will support the bigger expansion. So I hope you can feel this, and you want to keep lifting the space. Yogis, especially yogis, watch for this. Pushing the chest forward and squeezing more the shoulder blades on the back and creating compression in the low back and too much pushing forward through the base of the ribs. You're gonna go lengthen the neck, get all this space, 360, get this lift, engage, tone, hold the expansion.